everyone, this is Bence Kover, and I'm currently 3 weeks into the fall term at Caltech. I just had 7 hours of lectures today, so I'm exhausted, to say the least. However, the real work only begins now, and in this video, I will talk about what to do outside of classes to maximize your performance at university. Last year, at my home university, University College London, I ranked number 1 in my year. And I'll share 10 tips with you on how you can achieve something similar to that yourself. So tip number 1, make a plan. Before classes start, or even the year starts, take a look at the documentation that is available for your courses and write down every assignment, quiz, or exam that you're going to have to complete in the following term. I always make a Word document in the beginning of the academic year and gather all the dates for each assignment, also showing how many percentage the assignment is worth and how many credits the total module is worth. Being able to look at the big picture will allow you to make a schedule, equally distribute your workload, and put each assignment into a larger context. Tip number 2, carefully check grading criteria for each assignment. So what do I mean by this? An example would be essays. You want to make sure that the work you produce is 100% in line with the criteria. So do not write an essay that you think is good. Try to write one that the person grading it will think is good. That is a big difference. Tip number 3, start your assignments immediately. Do not procrastinate. You don't have to write an essay the first day after it was posted either. However, make sure you start working on your assignments right away. Usually when I know there will be an essay coming up, which I know because I made a plan of everything in the beginning of the year, I start thinking about possible topics and how I would approach them. I also look at previous years of a given class and what topics came up then. Once they hand out the actual essay question, I spend my first day reading Wikipedia and gathering review articles and primary research articles. Usually I start writing after a few days and end up writing more than twice the word count. In the following week, I would cut out the useless parts and format the essay according to the requirements. In the UK, they sometimes give us 2 or 3 weeks or even a month to write a 2,000-word essay, and usually most people only start a week or a few days before the deadline. By that time, I'm long done with my work. So the way I do it is like this, while most people do it like this. Now imagine that something happens that you didn't expect. You get sick, you drink too much, you get injured while playing basketball, or maybe the workload of other subjects is getting too heavy. If you schedule a month to write an essay, such issues will not be that big of a deal. If you schedule 3 days to write that essay, if something doesn't go according to plan, you are fucked. I find it that the last 1 or 2 weeks, I don't like to actively write. Just look at it every day, correct typos, format the references, or rewrite a few sentences. This allows me to move on to other tasks, especially because essays are usually due at times when there's a lot of other things to do as well. By the time I hand in my work, it is as good as it can be. On the other hand, those people who just started writing a few days before, well, they probably barely have a good understanding of the topic, let alone a perfectly written essay. So the conclusion is, work on your essay, or any kind of assignment for that matter, a little bit every day, right from the beginning till the deadline. Don't just try to rush the whole process in 2 days, right before the deadline, because that's usually not going to work well. Tip number 4, time allocation and say no to perfectionism. There is one key idea here. If you could turn hours into marks, what would be the most efficient way of doing that? Time allocation is key, because life is busy and you will hardly ever feel like you can give your 100% at every task. You want to make sure that you allocate time to those tasks that are the most important. Making a plan was the first point I made in this video, and that will help you a lot. However, you need to actively think about how you allocate your time during the year. If there are 2 assignments, one is worth 5% and the other is worth 10%, obviously allocate twice the time to the second one. If there are 2 assignments, one is worth 5% and the other is worth 5% too, however one of the modules is worth twice the credits, then obviously allocate twice as much time to the module that's worth twice the credits. If there are two assignments, both worth 5%, however, one is significantly easier than the other, just go max out the easy one and don't get stuck on the hard one, in the end failing both. Mistakes that people make in this area are more common than you think. Sometimes it is just worth it to zoom out and think about, okay, how much more time should I spend doing this? Should I just move on to the next exercise maybe? This leads us to the other point I'm trying to make here, which is do not be perfectionist. Writing a 70% essay may take 15 hours. A 75% essay may take 25 hours. But writing an 80% essay will probably take you 50 or more hours. But you clearly don't have 50 hours because you have other things to do. In most cases, you don't want to be perfectionist because after a certain point, the small return you get from every extra hour is just not worth it. A general rule of thumb is that once you reach 90% confidence in your work, just hand it in. Getting that extra 10% of confidence will take you forever, and you clearly don't have time for that because you have other things to do and you gotta move on. Tip number 5, writing a to-do list every day. A to-do list is super important to keep yourself accountable. If my list says, do the laundry, read 2 chapters of biochemistry, go to lectures, go to the gym, and finish referencing the essay, then I cannot go to bed that night unless I've done all of those. Furthermore, at the end of the day, when you see a completed list of things, it's gonna make you feel good. It will make you feel productive. It will make you think, okay, I've done something today. I can peacefully rest now. So how do you make a to-do list, you might ask? Well, do not overthink this. I usually just use a piece of paper or just put it in the notes on my phone. You absolutely do not need to pay for dumb apps just to get such a simple thing done. Ideally, you would write the list the night before or the morning of the day. And after that, I think it's just pretty obvious. You're just ticking the boxes the whole day, and that's it. Tip number 6, collaborate with others and do peer review. The truth is, everyone in life works as part of a team. So why would university students work alone? You definitely shouldn't. I found it very useful to talk to other people during my classes and often collaborate with them. This also mimics real life, where you will always have to collaborate and generally teams beat individuals. Doing online assignments together, comparing results, peer reviewing each other's essays, these are all things that I find very beneficial. I'm not saying you should cheat, however. And note that some universities and professors may have strict policies on collaboration, so just keep that in mind. Tip number 7, caffeine reset and slow increase of dosing. If you're like me, someone that consumes tons of caffeine, you might want to consider the following. Go off caffeine outside of term time. If it's the summer break, don't consume caffeine for 2 or 3 months. You want to set your tolerance levels back to the baseline so that when it's the most important, you will be able to get the most out of each cup of coffee. Furthermore, you want to gradually increase your caffeine intake as the term goes along so that it will take you longer to reach an unhealthy level of tolerance. As you get to the next break, the winter break let's say, again, stop drinking coffee, don't consume any kind of caffeine, and then once the term starts again, you can drink coffee and gradually increase your dosing. I find that this works perfectly for me, and so far I had no issues with my caffeine tolerance. One more thing though. Have your last coffee by 2 or 3 p.m. This is because the half-life of caffeine is a few hours and you want to get it out of your system completely by 8 to 10 p.m. Otherwise it will disrupt your sleep and it's just gonna cause a bunch of downstream problems during the year. Tip number 8. Exercise every day. This one is key. Go for a walk in the park. Go for a run. Go cycling. Go to the gym. I don't care, but go exercise every day. Staying in shape is key. The stress during term time increases your cortisol, which will lead to significant muscle loss, especially if you're sitting in front of your computer all day. Now, muscle mass is key for longevity, and you don't want to be out of shape as early as your 20s. Furthermore, sitting all day can really ruin your posture and back. Therefore, some resistance training is definitely beneficial for that. Finally, exercising also helps with learning and mental health. And if you don't want to go to the gym, then just go for a walk in the park. A chill environment with some nature will also do wonders. Tip number 9. Have a proper sleep schedule and don't use blinds. Have a proper sleep schedule. I struggle to understand why most university students I know have a completely up sleep schedule. In some cases, they go completely nocturnal. What is the point of reversing your sleep schedule though? These people usually are awake and asleep the same amount of time, just at the wrong times of the day. It is a common misconception that the amount of time you sleep is the only important variable, but in fact, the timing of when you sleep is just as important, if not more. Ideally, you would want to wake up in the morning around 6 to 8, take a walk or exercise, then go about your day. And I guarantee you, you will be tired enough to go to bed by 9 or 10 p.m. This will maximize your productivity and learning and will make you perform much better. And that is just a fact. A point I also want to add is that I've had many arguments in the past 2 years with people I used to live together with about whether we should close the blinds or leave them open for the night. You should absolutely leave the blinds open, as the accumulating light in the morning is a key factor in waking you up and setting your circadian rhythm. Finally, I find this sleep is for the weak culture on the internet completely retarded. And trust me, if you want to be highly efficient and mentally sane, then go get your sleep in, not just the right amount, but also at the right times. If you want to learn more about sleep, I recommend you read the book by Matthew Walker called Why We Sleep, and after that, you definitely will not want to mess with your sleep ever again. Tip number 10. Find your way of studying and taking notes. I think the importance of this point is way over exaggerated, and some YouTubers make crazy amounts of money creating content on this subject. In my opinion, it's very unrealistic to use study methods that you find in those videos, and generally you should just find your own way, one that you feel is the most effortless, yet most effective. For me, this is writing super nice notes, literally like a textbook, and then reading through it every now and then. Yes, this may not sound like the most effective, but that is how I enjoy doing it and how it feels the most effortless to me, and the results clearly speak for themselves. With both studying and taking notes, there are 2 things you want to consider. 1. Is my exam going to be open or closed book? 2. Am I required to recite facts or understand long and complicated chains of arguments? If your exam is open book or more about understanding complicated chains of arguments, then I suggest you follow my example and write very clear textbook-like notes. These will be easy to revise and very handy at open book exams. If your exam is closed book and purely based on facts like anatomy or high school history, you probably want to use some sort of flashcard app. But then again, if it doesn't feel effortless, but just a pain in the ass, then stick to what you like. That's gonna matter the most. In the end, you will probably spend 5 to 10 hours with studying every day, so you want to find a way that makes it somewhat bearable. Tip 10 plus 1. Don't overthink. University is easy. I wanted to leave this one for the last, because I think for me, as weird as it sounds, this has been one of the most important realizations. No matter what you study, think of it as, okay, this is easy. Most people tend to overthink stuff, especially when it comes to university. All the scientific terms, the smart people, the fancy experiments. But man, you're doing an undergraduate degree. Millions have done this before you, if not hundreds of millions. This is not hard. All the stuff you see is in fact quite simple. To me, this change in mindset allowed me to not be intimidated every single time I learned something new. Instead, I try to look at it like this. Many people understood this before. This is clearly not too hard. And then I start explaining the concept to myself and I realize it is actually not too hard to understand indeed. So we have 11 take-home messages. Number 1, make a plan for the year. Number 2, carefully check grading criteria for each assignment. Number 3, start your assignments immediately. Do not procrastinate. Number 4, allocate your time wisely and say no to perfectionism. Number 5, write a to-do list every day. Number 6, collaborate with others, and do peer review. Number 7, caffeine reset during breaks and slow increase of dosing during term time. No caffeine after 3 p.m. Number 8, exercise or go for a long walk every day. Number 9, sleep schedule is key and don't use the blinds. Number 10, find your way of studying and taking notes. Make it effortless. 10 plus 1, don't overthink. University is easy. So that was all for today, guys. I genuinely think if you do these 11 things, there's absolutely no way you're not gonna get the highest grade at university. And if you do all of these things and you still don't get the highest grade, just feel free to reach out to me, and I am 100% sure that I'll be able to point out the mistakes you're making. So just please let me know if you found it useful, and I think I'm just gonna work on some problem sets now, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.